Hello and welcome to the Wire Talks. I'm Sidharth Bhatia. It is often said that Parliament today is not like it used to be in the old days when there were MPs who rebelled in the cut and thrust of debates. Opposition leaders then used to put the government on the mat, and treasury benches too respected their political opponents. This is not strictly true. There are parliamentarians who come armed with facts and arguments and ask trenchant questions of the government. And whenever Parliament does convene, there is there are debates. So I think this is a question of us looking back and thinking those were the days. But of course, we remember some great parliamentarians of the past. Professor Manoj Kumar Jha is one such MP of the current parliament who has come to be respected for his parliamentary skills. A Rajya Sabha MP who belongs to the Rashtriya Janata Dal, he is a PhD in social work from the University of Delhi and also now a professor there. He's a regular writer for several newspapers and websites on current affairs, and his new book, a collection of his various columns, has just been published under the title In Praise of Coalition Politics and Other Essays on Indian Democracy. Manoj Kumar Jha, welcome to the Wire Talks.
Thank you so much, Siddharth.
These essays cover a very wide range of topics ranging from Kashmir, Waqf properties, the RSS, and your letters to Gandhiji and Pandit Nehru. When I read them, I felt, correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt painted a somewhat grim picture of where India is today. Is this how you see the nation at the present moment?
Look, while we are talking, Siddharth, just a few hours back, I think two fine journalists, they have been, they are literally being haunted by now after one case in another case by one government, say Assam government, Assam police. Each time I decide that I look at the source of light at the end of the tunnel, I realize that the tunnel is endless. The source of light is not actually visible. Nobody likes to paint a grim picture, but last few years have been very difficult for any one of us, whether in terms of having freedom or talking about equality. Imagine somebody today talking about equality and he or she is being branded as urban Naxal, and somebody asking for greater uh, freedom for the minorities, and that person is called pro Pakistan or go to Pakistan. These, I mean, these are not a fringe kind of discourse anymore. These discourses have been mainstreamed. Earlier, what used to be dog whistling at a marginal level, they have occupied the central rostrum of our political and public life. I mean, that in that kind of situation, and let me tell you, Siddharthji, I'm very fond of letter writing. I'm very fond of this genre. Uh, I admire Nehru for this because he used to write lots of letters to almost everyone. So I have two daughters. So I literally copied Nehru. On their birthday, I'll write to them every birthday. And it won't be a personal letter from a father to his daughters, but about things which took place at that particular point of time. So taking this genre from there, many a time I use this in order to convey what needed to be conveyed. For instance, recently I wrote a letter from Nehru 2 years back or a year back, from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to the present Prime Minister. Uh, Recently, I wrote a letter from Jayaprakash Narayan to the present Prime Minister. It was the week during when they were actually having events on 50 years of emergency. So, my idea of letter writing is just to bring those people, their ideas in the context of today. Uh, though the though the picture might have appeared to you as a painting of a grim situation, but the reality is that through those grim situations, I'm looking at the end of this Orwellian kind of phase which all of us are undergoing.
So therefore, what you are saying is, we'll come to your letters from you to Gandhiji and to Nehruji a little later. But the picture, as one sees, is, and from what you ended, is that perhaps this is a phase. Am I right? It's a phase, and that India will come out of this.
Look, the somewhere down the line, even in my mind, I believe there was this historian called Oswald Spengler. He wrote about rise and fall of civilization. Many a time I have tried to borrow his ideas in terms of people, individuals, or ideas in at a particular phase of history. And I also believe that look, increasingly, Indian uh, Indian people are by and large, by and large, they are tolerant. They believe in accommodation. This is how the civilization has grown. And recently, I have also written something which is unpublished so far, that I'm exploring the idea that anything, any idea or any individual who or which is popular at a particular historical juncture may not be pro humanity or pro people or progressive ideas once evaluated, say 50 years later, or 40 years later, or 20 years later. So I am of that belief. But this phase, I I don't see only through the lens of elections or through day to day politics. I look at it from the perspective that what kind of damage has been done to our public and social and public life. And the damages are widespread rupture in interpersonal relationship, community relationship. So we might have a new government, say someday, maybe if not tomorrow, the day after. But this rupture which has taken place, this rupture will take time in healing. It cannot be healed only through one election victory. You have to undo lot many things which has been done in last couple of years, and I don't think only since 2014. At a subterranean level, this othering of a community or demonization was going on. It will all require a massive effort, a lot many years in order to have delete button on lot many things like this.
So, Manoj, would you say that the social fabric has been torn or ruptured? I'm sorry to make it an image, but or is frayed, and it is possible to repair it.
It is possible to repair it, Siddharthji, but I don't know how much time will it take. Because once I hear people speak about something called soft Hindutva, it alarms me. I mean, for an idea which is dangerous, which is against the Gandhian idea or the Nehruvian idea of, or for that matter, constitutional morality of Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ambedkar. There cannot be a soft version of that thing you call soft Hindutva and things like that. So much of poison has been spread in the society that it will. I can't have a timeline that even if you have a government of your liking tomorrow, of like-minded people, say India bloc comes to power, I don't think the kind of tasks which we shall have in front of us, the huge challenges, we'll have to reboot many things in the language of computer. We have to reboot, and rebooting would require actually shutting down the window for some time and then go on with it. I hope we are able to do it. At least, I mean, I have no other option but to hope.
Now, coming to your book, there are so many essays, I think 30 plus essays. I can't possibly touch all of them. But the first essay is the title of the first essay, is your title of your book. And I'm quite intrigued by that. You say conventional wisdom has it that the coalitions are inherently shaky and unstable. And you are saying that no, coalitions, India itself is a civilization coalition, and consensus building has been going on. And you have marked several political events of the last uh, 30, 40 years, the governments, various coalition government. Uh, so, do you think coalitions are not inherently shaky? I mean, a strong government, which is what many in India crave for, a strong government can take firm decisions.
I'll tell you, history is replete with examples that in the name of a strong government or a strong leader, or I, the world has seen more of devastation on account of a strong leader, or a strong idea, or a strong regime. I mean, I don't even wish to go to Germany, say, of the 1930s, 40s. I don't wish to go that. Even contemporary example, if you see, I mean, you have d- scores of such example. Why I say, India itself as a nation, call it a civilization. It's built on coalition. It's a, I mean, the written part in the constitution is India is a union of state. But if I take it metaphorically, it's a coalition of ideas, coalition of culture, coalition of religion, coalition of dresses, coalition of attitude, coalition of temperament, coalition of dresses. I mean, so many coalition. If you can have uh, uh, for each one of the 26 alphabets, you can have an instance that this is what India is, a kind of coalition. Now, again, when you say shaky, many people say stable government. More often than not, in the name of stability, you get a status quoist regimes. Those who don't wish to disrupt a hierarchy of inequality or any form of hierarchy, which may be antithetical to the very idea of democracy, which believes in equality, freedom, justice. But the idea of stability is so overwhelming. And again, it's an idea which has been perpetuated by the people, by certain people who believe that this idea gives them a chance to hold on to status quo, to maintain what it is. I mean, entire school in functionalist school in sociology, it premised is on the fact that stability is very important. But stability for what? For whom? The basic question in politics is we ask who gets what, where, when, how, and why. That's about resource distribution. That's about allocation. That's about representation. And these are the questions which are generally put on under the carpet by a strong leader, by a so called strong government. But if the coalition is there, coalitions are not contradictions. Coalitions are seeking a greater stability by disturbing the status quoist equilibrium for the time being, for the time being, but achieving higher degree of equilibrium. That's what, if you look back, I mean, the first political party in India, Indian National Congress, it was not a single political party. It was the coalition of individuals and ideas. It had people who had right leanings. It had people who had left leanings. It had people who had centrist thought, and it had people who actually believed in revolutionary ideas. But all of them were under one umbrella, the coalitional umbrella of Indian National Congress. And then, if we move on, the history, I mean, even Nehruvian cabinet, if you examine, It was coalition of different individuals, those who do not have, those who were not the photocopy of each other. They had fundamental differences on a lot many things, but they were together to evolve a framework to govern a diverse country like India. And I have my personal experience in public life as a teacher, as a parliamentarian, tells me the more of coalition of diverse ideas you have, the more progressive is your agenda. More often than not, in case of a strong single party, you get a, a, a shutdown message on democracy almost 24/7. Most of the parties which believe in single party rule or a strong leader, they are the first one who kill internal democracy in their political parties.
I'll play devil's advocate here for a second. Uh, we have a government at the center today which is nominally and factually, not just nominally, because the previous Modi government also nominally a coalition, but they had their own majority. But now they have factually, we have a uh, coalition of two very, very strong parties in their own domain who are supporting them. Tomorrow, if theoretically any of those parties were to walk off, this government can collapse. And yet, this government is behaving like a, you know, unbridled, they're doing whatever they want, and we are not hearing a word from the coalition partners.
Siddharth, let me tell you, uh, although you are right, but I would take you to the month of June 2024. Suddenly, my prime minister, I have never seen any prime minister with his or her own name who says Modi Sarkar. He used to call it Modi Sarkar. Talking about own government, he used to call it Modi Sarkar. Now, since 2024, the month of June, Mr. Prime Minister calls it NDA Sarkar, NDA government. This is not simply a change of vocabulary. Number one. Number two, after 2024 mandate, look at the number of their ideas which have been sent to Joint Parliamentary Committee and Select Committee. And before that, how much? For instance, Waqf went to the Joint Parliamentary Committee. One Nation, One Election went to the Joint Parliamentary Committee. You know, the problem with Prime Minister Modi, unlike Atal Bihari Vajpayee, is Vajpayee did never got a mandate, a full majority. So he was by temperament, he had to be a coalition man, a coalition prime minister. Mr. Modi, Narendra Modi ji, actually, he's not by temperament a coalition builder. Forget taking taking ideas from opposition. He doesn't even talk to his own cabinet if my information is correct. He is the cabinet with all capitals. Even that kind of gentleman, his vocabulary has undergone change. That's why my first reaction after Mr. Prime Minister 2024 mandate, my first reaction in a newspaper was that he is a majoritarian PM who has to work without a majority on his own. So it's very difficult for him, a majoritarian by temperament, by attitude, by mannerism, who has to keep in mind that he doesn't have absolute majority on his own. That's why you would see, even at the level of apparently, uh, there is a there is a there is a consensus building man apparently in Mr. Modi. He would have taken the decision of C.P. Radhakrishnan as the vice presidential candidate if it was 2019. But at least ornamentally, he presented as if he is talking to everyone, not only Chandra Babu, Nitish Kumar ji, but also Jayant Chaudhary and others. You know, this finally I'm telling you, this is a churning is going on, and many more things will be seen in the coming, say, days or months. Because I repeat, if India has to remain united, if it has to convey a message of uh, all all are equal from west to east and from south to north, it has to have this paradigm of coalition and single party majoritarian ethos is actually antithetical to the very foundation of India.
One of the other essays, I mean, there are so many wonderful essays. One of the other essays that I was quite, I wanted to ask you about is that you have written that the essay is called The Trouble with EWS Reservations, which is economically weaker sections, and that reservations should remain about caste, not economic status. But aren't they concomitant? Aren't the Dalits and others among the weaker section of society?
Look, I'll tell you that the background to this essay was that when the government brought EWS reservation, my some of my concerns which were raised by uh, me and another party was DMK on the floor of the house. My two, three arguments were very clear, which fortunately Honorable Supreme Court also asked on the same lines. First was that our constitution talks about social and educational backwardness. It doesn't talk about economic backwardness. Number one. Number two, there is no denial that poverty is rampant. But it is a proven fact that when you go down the hierarchy of castes, the lower you go, higher concentration of poverty is visible. So poverty and caste have a relationship. The upward you move, lesser concentration of poverty. So my idea was to challenge this myth that reservation is not about employment generation. It's not a poverty eradication program. It's about representation. And Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ambedkar was very clear on it. He has spoken about it multiple times. That was my third argument. And fourth was that when the Mandal Commission submitted its report, we had many volumes of data as evidence backing the claim that OBC reservation should be granted other backward classes on the basis of social educational backwardness. In case of AWS, we had no data, no evidence. No affirmative program anywhere in the world has come without evidence. And I mean, evidence which was the hallmark of Mandal Commission. In that context, I had written that this entire paradigm has certain inherent flaw.
You began by talking about how you write letters to your daughters. I found that a very, very charming idea. They'll grow up to see all these letters and say, "This is what not only our father thought. This is what he. This is how he viewed the country at that time." But you've also written letters to Bapu and to Panditji, and those I th- I read two letters to Gandhiji. So clearly, you've written more, perhaps. So you remind us. This line struck me. You remind us that Gandhiji had said just before partition, the truth is, or you tell him, the truth is, Bapu, the condition of your country feels even worse than it was during partition. Is this anger, anguish, frustration? What is it?
Look, I think, Siddhaji, it's such an important question you have asked. You know, I read Sumit Sarkar when I was in graduation. Sumit Sarkar's Modern India. And he was a Marxist. His writing was within the Marxian framework. But what I liked and I was touched by, he was touched. He was highly emotional when he wrote about the last phase of Mahatma. While we were celebrating, the nation was celebrating freedom here in Delhi, 1947, he was in Noakhali. I find last phase of Mahatma, Bapu, as one phase where he had risen much above from everybody. He was pained by the kind of, not only by the partition which had taken place along a line, he was pained by the partition within each village, town, township, hamlet. He was troubled within. At that phase of Mahatma, later on I read Pyarelal book, The Last Page. And when I look back of what is happening today, particularly on one issue, the way Muslims are being demonized in my country, minorities per se, but Muslims in particular. It's difficult to reimagine Gandhi, what he would say. At that time, there was a partition. That partition hurt everyone on that side of the border, on this side of the border. But healing started. I know there were inadequacies in healing too, on either side. But now, instead of healing, we are creating more of hurt everywhere. It's so difficult. It's impossible for. I remember Rani Masoom Raza wrote Adha Gaon about what was happening at village level during partition. But we went ahead, marched ahead from there. But today, when I look at things around me, it's very difficult. I mean, you are asking loyalty certificate to Muslims simply because your name carries a Muslim name or a surname, you are questioned. You must have seen now somebody is speaking Bangla. That's the language, one of the richest language in India. And the people who speak Bangla, they have been branded as speaking Bangladeshi, a foreign national language. How can we forget Rabindranath Tagore, Sharat Chand Chattopadhyay? But this is what has been done to my country. It's psyche. It pains me to see my Prime Minister at Red Fort on 15th of August. Forget, I'm not going to quote his election rally speeches. But when my Prime Minister uses a language which is straight dog whistling, how would Gandhi react to it? And this he did after visiting Rajghat. He went to Rajghat, then to Lal Killa. That's why many a time it's important to reimagine that Gandhi writing to Modi ji or I writing to Gandhi. Similar is the case of Nehru. I have said it on the floor of the house that if somebody is there for 17 years, he might have committed a mistake. But these were the people who laid a foundation for an inclusive, secular, democratic India. You have built one floor. Congress built two floors. You will build probably one more floor. But how can you 24/7 talk about the fact that the foundation is weak, that the people who did this? And the recent one, if you look at it, that they have introduced a chapter, I'm told, in the NCRT book, that the culprits of partition, which includes Congress and Jinnah. So, what I essentially mean to say that our world is defined by untruths and post-truths. And the only solace left, the only option left with us, is to remember the India Gandhi thought of building or rebuilding. Nehru thought of building or rebuilding. Baba Sahib thought of providing the contours of constitutional propriety and morality, and so on and so forth.
So, in a letter to Panditji, you say the current regime is at war with the ideas you upheld. So, my question to that is, why did you, whatever you said just now about in the last 2 or 3 minutes about removing chapters or blaming everything on Nehru, why do you think that is happening?
Look, one naturally what comes to my mind that when people don't have a sense of belonging in the history, the sense of belonging that we were also there, when their organization doesn't have any kind of space for belonging, so they will change the nature of belonging itself. They'll, if they change cannot or change anything, they'll change the historian's craft. They'll change the very foundation of history itself. This is what they have been doing. Uh, I think the first target was universities. We all know what is happening to the universities, how is being tampered with. I mean, I personally believe that I have no problem as a university teacher. I always was instrumental in bringing all forum as a forum for dialogue between left, right, and center. But in last couple of years, if you say 10, 12 years, what is being done? The eraser is going on. I mean, you can change the name of a railway station or a city. Changing history is not that important, not that easy. You know, history and memory, these are two important things. You cannot rob generation after generation from essentially what is inherited memory, part of collective memory, which may not come only through the textbook or the history books, which also comes through intergenerational transmission of memory. They want to us into all that. And the easiest target is universities, curriculum. I mean, I'm pained to see that this government was almost at war with JNU. What not were spoken about Jawaharlal Nehru University? The university had two biggest crimes. It had the name Jawaharlal, number one, and number two, it believed in freedom of ideas and expression. And that's what Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan also felt. And say Brazilian educator Paulo Freire. This is how education should have been viewed, whether you are right wing, left wing, or of centrist mindset. But this entire government is actually, I'm sorry to say, their biggest source of strength is of cooked knowledge. They, there is a school in history called counterfactual history that it allows you to imagine that if Caesar had not crossed Rubicon, history does not follow that kind of imagine that cannot have afford to have imaginative tool as appropriate to your political ideology. And if you believe that, ultimately it damages the very core idea of education, the very core idea of how should we view education as a liberatory experience.
So you mentioned, I was really like that line, a sense of if you don't have a sense of belonging. And so taking off from there, I come to your essay called The RSS and Government Servants. And I'm quoting here, the RSS strategy is then to loosen the rules of political engagement for the bureaucracy on the one hand, while shackling intellectuals on another. Is the RSS now entering every aspect of Indian political, cultural, and social life?
Read a line from the same essay. Being the organization that gave birth to the phenomena called Nathuram Godse, I use the term phenomena and not individual, because to blame only an individual for the assassination of Mahatma would be to ignore the magnitude of this event. No dispensation should have allowed its rehabilitation in the public sphere. Now, Siddharthji, I don't know. Since my early days in school and college, I had never seen anybody celebrating Nathuram Godse on 30th of January. I saw that. I saw a lady who called him the greatest patriot was sent to Lok Sabha by the same organization. I mean, I won't say that it was BJP because, you know, lateral entry by the BJP was a kind of cover for the entry of people with inclination. Inclination is a statement with affiliation announcing RSS. Now, in every university in India today, there is an unwritten message to all the vice chancellors that when you make appointments, you must make sure that a candidate has an affiliation. So, if you analyze their social media post, you would find that there is suddenly flood of those individuals who declare on their Facebook or Twitter the slogan of Sangh or that imagery of Bharat Mata with that saffron flag, almost a replica of Nagpur headquarters. All these things, I when I wrote this, I had in my mind because there was a circular from a government. Earlier, there was a ban that if you are a government servant, you should be seen. I mean, it was a normalization. It was an act of normalization. We are, I mean, even now, the vice presidential candidate, the only thing which is spoken in favor of him, is that he's a die-hard RSS man. Should this be treated as a qualification for a position where Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan was the first one? And interestingly, I'll tell you, Siddharthji, in our old Parliament House, just in front of the seat of the presiding officer, that is the chairman, there used to be a photograph of Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, maybe to remind any occupant that, look, I had set certain principles for this chair. In the new parliament, that image has been removed. There is no Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan in front of the Rajya Sabha chairperson. So, that's why in your first response to first question, I said that maybe we win the next election because elections are after all arithmetic. But the psychological damage which has been done to the Indian people, their understanding, their knowledge systems, their sense of history, that shall require much more than election victory. It has to be it has to be undone by we the people of India, the first and the opening line of the preamble.
There is no secret that the influential middle and upper middle classes, as well as from other sections of society, have absorbed this message wholeheartedly. Not, they are not tentative about it. You go to any housing complex, housing society, you will find people talking about these things. WhatsApp groups, of course. Uh, Speaking of Dr. Radhakrishnan, who set such standards, and now you are saying an RSS man is going to be put in that position, do you think that, and of course, we've had the amazing spectacle of the previous vice president and chairman of the Rajya Sabha, quitting in mysterious circumstances. Seems to have vanished. Do you think that parliamentary debates, the quality of and standard of parliamentary debates has fallen?
Yes, indeed, Siddharthi. Indeed, it has fallen because when I read the first or second or the third, even till fifth Lok Sabha, the debate used to be very rich, very informative. Generally, people used to not hold pages and read the. Generally, it is not considered a good parliamentary practice that if you read your speeches, uh, the speech written in your hand should be indicative rather than point by point. If you keep on, for instance, one of the parliamentarians I admired, I never heard him speak, but I have read almost all his speeches, was Professor Hiren Mukherjee, CPI member of parliament, 5 to 6 times continuously. I think I admired his or Father Lohia ji for very limited time, but he made powerful intervention. Nehru himself made powerful intervention. Firoz Gandhi, I mean, I would consider him one man opposition from within Congress. I mean, we don't see those kind of debates. Yes, yes, I won't say that it has diminished altogether. There have been occasions in my own life, if I see my parliamentary career. That was in 2021. I was speaking on COVID and how there was fuzzing of data, there was denial of death, of statistics relating to death. And I had prepared a very different kind of speech. But looking at the way things were going during the, because COVID was a shock to the entire nation. And then at one point in that speech, I said that there is no member of parliament who can say that he or she doesn't know at least one person who has died. And from that, I spoke, and many members from the BJP came and told me, "You spoke for me. You spoke for me." That was one moment when I realized that our parliament is beyond partisan politics also. So there have been several occasions when I have come across very good interventions, either from the treasury benches or the opposition. But in that context, I'll draw attention to one more essay in which I wrote my pain, and that was government is not the nation. Every day, a journalist, a student, a poet, a cartoonist, opposition leader is hounded because criticism of the government has been equated with criticism of the idea of nation. Nation is eternal. Governments are temporary. It comes with a temporary mandate, say for 5 years. It might disappear even before that, but say for 5 years. But nation is not mandate-based idea. So if I love my nation, I would critique my government, question my government. We have done it during the Congress rule, during the UPA rule. What is so sacrosanct today that you report from Assam and sedition laws are applied? I mean, that doesn't speak only poorly about a government, its attitude and temperament. That speaks about the fall, the disgrace, and that's not a good signature idea about the idea of India. And I want my parliament to have that message. Even in one of the recent interventions, I said, I'll my critique my judiciary because Krishna here has taught me that contempt of court is a myth. He himself, as a judge, wrote that. So if I critique my government, my prime minister, I want my nation to appear more beautiful, lovely. I mean, these are not strange ideas I'm borrowing. I have, I have taken it from the parliamentary speeches itself of the people who critiqued Nehru. And yet Nehru was not uncomfortable. Nehru sat through the debates. That's why I say the fall is at multiple level, and this fall has to be arrested because
No,
idea of India shall continue. Parties may not continue.
uh, I can't help it with all those film posters behind you and elsewhere in your house, which I can see that some of those posters are on the something that I have liked myself too. So I will ask you a question based on one of the films that you may have seen or you may have liked, or the song you may have liked. So do you think, even though things look grim, वो सुबह कभी तो आएगी?
आएगी, वो सुबह कभी तो आएगी, क्योंकि वो एक और भी थी। एक बात है, वो दाग दाग उजाला, वो सब गजीदा शहर में इंतजार था जिसका, ये वो शहर तो नहीं है। ये पार्टीशन के वक्त लिखी गई थी, संभवतः, इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग।
Mm.
मैं समझता हूँ कि आई एम वेरी श्योर वील हैव दैट शहर, दैट मॉर्निंग। वो सुबह कभी तो आएगी, लेकिन ये अंधी रात थोड़ी लंबी हो रही है। इस रात की सुबह नहीं, आई वोंट से दैट, इस रात की सुबह होगी।
Well, on that note, Professor Manoj Kumar Jha, thank you so much. You gave a very I must tell you that I have been reading your book. The last few essays I may have missed because it came to me only recently, but I have read it, and I must say this calls for more because you continue writing for various publications. So uh, hopefully, inshallah, there will be more books and more dialogue and more dialogues.
Let me make an announcement on with you today. My next project is Letters to Nehru.
Ah,
Maybe I'll collaborate with other individuals who share those ideas of, about parliamentary democracy, about freedom, about equality. And I think Nehru wrote lot many letters to people. It's time to repay. Letters to Nehru.
media zarur la announcement.
Napakka.
Okay, thank you, Professor Manoj Kumar Jha. That was a very, very uh, enlightening dialogue between us. And I recommend that your book be compulsory reading one day in universities also. Ab to hoga nahi. So we'll be back. That was Professor Manoj Kumar Jha, parliamentarian, academic, and inveterate writer of columns. We'll be back again next week with another guest. Till then, from me, Sidharth Bhatia, and the rest of the team, goodbye.